All right, so I'm a Griot master storyteller, and I want to share a story with you. The words of Aretha Franklin are echoing through my head. So as you listen to the story, I want you to ask this question: who's zooming who? All right, some of y'all got that. That's okay. So this story took place a long time ago. Now there was this here slave they called King John Silver. They called him a king because despite his being a slave, he carried himself in a regal manner. They called him John because the so-called master named him John. And they called him Silver because he always seemed to have a pocket full of silver on him, even though slaves weren't allowed to have money. Every day King John would go off to town where he wasn't supposed to go. He would sell fortunes he wasn't supposed to tell, and he'd make himself a whole lot of silver he wasn't supposed to have. You could hear him going, fortunes, fortunes for sale, fortunes, fortunes for sale. Well, one evening he was coming back from town where he wasn't supposed to go, having sold fortunes he wasn't supposed to tell, and he had a whole pocket full of silver he wasn't supposed to have. And he ran into the so-called master. And the master said, John. By the way, that's not the way he spoke. He said, John, where have you been? Don't tell me, you've been off to town again. Just then his pocket shook full of silver. He said, John, give me the silver. And he took all the silver. He said, John, you're my favorite slave, but I'm afraid I'm going to have to make an example of you. Tomorrow morning I'm going to take you down to the river, and I'm going to drown you. John said, well, sir, I suppose you got to do what you got to do. I'm going to put you in a croaker sack, John. I'm not kidding. I'm going to drown you. Yes, sir, I understand, but if you're going to put me in a croaker sack and throw me in the river, you better put an anvil on top of me. An anvil? Why? Because, you know, I'm full of air, and if the croaker sack opened, I might float back up to the top. He said, that's a good idea, and I'm glad I thought of it. So the next day, they put John in a croaker sack, and everybody was sad. The women just were crying because everybody liked John because he helped them out when he could. And John said, don't forget the anvil. So the so-called master called on his two favorite slaves, Leroy and Roy Lee. And they went off to find the biggest anvil they could find. Well, while they were gone, John undid the top of the croaker sack, slipped out, filled it full of rocks, took his work shirt off, put it on top of the rocks, and hid behind a bunch of bushes. When the master came back, he said, John, are you still in the croaker sack? Now, John was a slave, but he wasn't stupid. Yes, sir, I'm still in the croaker sack. They opened the croaker sack, saw the work shirt, dropped the anvil on top of it. John behind the bushes went, ooh! Like I said, he wasn't stupid. They tied the croaker sack down together, they took it on down to the river, and I need you guys to count to three. They went, one, they went, two, they went, three. Croaker sack shot up in the air, came down, everybody go splash. Everybody go splash. Splash. Now go bloop, 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 bloop. Bloop. Now go, don't do that again. After a couple of minutes, they knew that John had drowned, and everybody went about their business. John slipped from behind the bushes, got himself a brand new goatskin rug that I just dropped on the floor, but that's all right, use your imagination. And he went up to town. Fortunes, fortunes for sale, fortunes, fortunes for sale. Late that night, the master was feeling guilty because he thought he'd drowned John. Well, if he was feeling bad because he thought he drowned John, I imagine how John would feel if he'd been drowned. Under the full moon, he saw this great, big, strapping black man. He went, John. I thought I drowned you. Well, sir, you certainly threw me in the river in that croaker sack. Well, what happened? Well, sir, I told you I was full of air. The croaker sack split open, the anvil fell off of me, and I tried to be a good slave and drown. I tried to be a good slave like you taught me to. I tried to stay on the bottom of that river. I was clawing, but I was full of air. He was full of something. I was full of air, and I just floated to the top of the river. He heard the silver in John's pocket. He says, John, where did you get the silver from? In the river? You mean to tell me there's silver in the river for those that needs to see it? Well, how can I get some of that silver? Well, sir, I suppose we gotta put you in a croaker sack and throw you in the river. Well, the next day, everybody was gathered around, but they weren't crying, they were laughing or trying not to be heard laughing, because once again, John was getting over. John was getting over. They put him in a croaker sack, took him down to the river. Come on, count. 1. Come on. 2. Come on. 3. And the ain't having y'all do that again. Y'all got me wet last time. And he went down there, well, the croaker sack split open. Do you think that man tried to come to the top of the river? No, he down the bottom of the river clawing, looking for silver. Finally, he couldn't hold his breath any longer. He shot up out of that water like a fish caught by the wrong end, if you know what I mean. He came out that river. John. I thought you told me it was silver in the river. I said it was for those that needs to see it. Then how come I did not see it? Well, sir, I suppose because you got that big house on top of the hill full of all that nice stuff in your house, you didn't need to see it. The master looked at John, looked at the river. Looked at John, looked at the river. Looked at John, looked at the river. Thank you. Got so mad he stormed him up. It didn't come out for 3 days. But when he stormed up, everybody looked at John. They were chuckling. And John grabbed himself another magical goatskin rug and went off to town going, fortune for sale, fortune for sale. Now, I want y'all to ponder on this. Who y'all think was running that plantation? John or the so-called master? Who was zooming who? Asante.